And we are going to go to Governor Newsom now with an update on the wildfires and the coronavirus. Let's listen in.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to offer you a situational update on the wildfires here in the state of California and give you a sense of where we are, where we've been, and where we anticipate going over the course of the next week, in particular, this critical week as it relates to addressing and suppressing these wildfires here in the state of California. Foundationally and fundamentally, we're deploying every resource at our disposal, every resource that we have within the state, and you'll see in a moment some of the resources we pulled out of state into California to battle these historic wildfires. Put it in perspective, I say historic, I mean it with purpose and intention. Just consider last year at this stage, this date. Last year in 2019, we had 4,292 wildfires in the state of California, burned about 56,000 acres. 4,292 wildfires this time last year. Today, over 7,000 wildfires, 7,002 burning now north of 1.4 million acres. 56,000 acres to date last year, over 1.4 million acres this year. We're currently battling some 625 fires across the state, and you'll see in a moment a number of new fires that appeared overnight. We've burned 1.2 million acres since just a week or so ago. Again, 1.4 million acres to date, and that's about 200,000 acres that predated these 13,000+ lightning strikes that we have experienced. Sadly, we've lost 7 lives so far to these latest fires and over 1,200 reported structures. And I want to just make point, that's the number of structures that have been reported in to our Office of Emergency Services. There's no question there are more structures that have been damaged by this historic wildfire season. Here's the last 24 hours. Close to 300 lightning strikes we experienced in the last 24 hours. As I noted, 10 new fires in the last 24 hours. So this challenge continues, including the weather today, particularly up in the Sierras, particularly in the eastern part of the state. We're still experiencing some weather, including lightning strikes, a little bit of wind. But the bottom line is these lightning strikes have been the most impactful and most challenging. It's also been impenetrable in terms of identifying fires related to these strikes. And I make the point to say there's been 10 new fires, but I want to make an additional point, and that is there are a lot of sleeper fires we expect to discover as our reconnaissance efforts, as our aerial efforts continue, particularly as the smoke begins to clear, as weather conditions change. We will be identifying likely additional fires throughout the state. But 289 lightning strikes. We anticipated a busy night last night. Good news is the lightning strikes weren't as bad as some had anticipated, but nonetheless close to 310 new fires reported in the state. Let me give you a sense of progress as it relates to active wildfires in this state. I think it's also important to note progress, not just focus on the big challenges that we face, but also the challenges that continue to be faced here in the state. Last week, I shared with you an update of the Lake Fire, August 19th, last Wednesday. I noted that it was 38% contained. Today, it's 62% contained, so real progress being made on the Lake Fire. The Loyalton Fire, last week, 35% contained. Today, 93% contained. And I make a point of showing you progress because it's testament to the incredible firefighters that are out there on the front lines, the hand crews, and all of the individuals that are responsible for this effort of suppression, and the progress is demonstrable. The Holzer Fire, accordingly, 30% contained last week. You'll see now 80% contained. In the Ranch Fire, got a lot of attention, 19%, now over 81% contained. So it shows what's possible, and it shows what we're doing over the course of the last 5-6 days. And I want to frame the next slides in the context of what was achieved over the course of the last number of days because of the professionalism of these frontline heroes. We now have 625 fires in the state, but 17 that we constitute major fires. And within those major fires, these are complex fires. These are the lightning complex fires that you likely have been reading about. Many of you have been experiencing firsthand. The LNU up there in Lake Napa County, ZU down in the Santa Cruz area, and the SCU fire down there in the Santa Clara area. The LNU is the second largest fire so far reported in modern California history. Currently 350,000 acres in that complex, 22% contained. The CZU, 78,000 acres. What is remarkable about the CZU, and I was down there again yesterday, is this is a coastal fire, primarily along the coast near the Santa Cruz Mountains, in forests, a lot of redwoods that have simply never seen forest fires because of the weather conditions and the like. Again, a proof point that we are in a different climate and we are dealing with different climate conditions that are precipitating in fires like which we haven't seen in modern recorded history, in dense forests that are well covered and have been historically immune from significant fires along our coast, though 13% contained, not where we need to be. I just want folks to know down in the Santa Cruz area, I made this point after visiting a number of shelters down there, meeting with folks that were evacuated. We are getting more personnel on that fire, have over the course of the last 48 hours, in particular the last 24 hours, more engines, more dozers, more aerial equipment in and around that area. The SCU fire is now the third largest fire in California's history. While the LNU is 350,000 acres as of this morning, the SCU is 347,000 acres as of this morning. We are also battling fires that persist. August fire and the Carmel fire and the Sheep fire. You'll see the containment there, 11, 15, and 0%. The Sheep fire is about 26,000 active acres as we speak. Carmel, about 6,700 acres active. August fire is primarily a grass fire, larger, 178,000 acres, primarily, though, a grass fire, 11% contained, but one that we constitute as a major fire that we are currently battling. We secured over the weekend a presidential disaster declaration. It had to be approved by the president himself. I want to thank the president for his support of that disaster declaration. We had anticipated he would be supportive, and indeed he was supported. That declaration included some flexibility on including additional counties in the state. One of those counties that was included in the last 24 hours is Monterey County. I want to thank Congressman Panetta and others for their advocacy and their stewardship and support of that effort, now included in the major disaster declaration. This will provide resources and more flexibility, resourcefulness as it relates to battling these wildfires, as well as direct aid individuals, not just direct access to the state of California and its mutual aid system in terms of equipment, personnel, and other support. Currently, speaking of personnel, we have actively 14,000 firefighters working on these wildfires. Over 2,400 engines now have been deployed throughout the state of California. We have in-state mutual aid, which is just mesmerizing and point of deep pride. I saw it firsthand on Saturday. I saw it firsthand on Sunday as we're up there in Livermore area, and all of a sudden some Santa Monica fire engines come up. We saw some Tulare fire engines as well on Saturday. Santa Cruz, you're seeing the same thing from many Southern California new Southern California engines coming up from almost every department in this state, providing firefighters 2,827 as of this morning. In-state mutual aid supporting the statewide efforts. 709 engines now have been deployed from the 6 major mutual aid regions in the state of California. We also have been beneficiary of out-of-state mutual aid. I updated you on some of those efforts last week. We added a number of states, including Kansas, that has been helpful with National Guard support. We call this TAG process, where we're getting helicopter, Type 1 helicopter support from Idaho, Utah, Arizona now, and Kansas. We have 91 engines that have come in from New Mexico, Texas, Oregon, Utah, Washington, as well as Arizona and Idaho. Governor Bullock, I was on the call with just 2 days ago, also sending 8 engines. They should arrive momentarily into the state of California. Some 375 total engines have been requested from many other states as well, and we're in the process of getting those assets delivered. We continue to battle historic wildfires, but we're also battling this historic pandemic, COVID-19, that has not gone away. That makes some of our wildfire efforts a little bit more challenging, but we are up to the task. We had prepared new protocols, processes, and procedures in anticipation of meeting this moment. We had highlighted and socialized a number of those strategies a number of months ago when we highlighted a supplemental appropriation to get some 858 new CAL FIRE personnel hired, 830 that already now are out on the lines. But we had put together new sheltering protocols. We put together new protocols in terms of taking care of our first responders as well. Let me give you just a brief example of some of those efforts. We now have health screening that is done, an assessment before entry in any of our congregate shelters throughout our system as part and parcel of the evacuation protocols. With mask requirements, social distancing. You'll see not just the use of cots and mats, but not just cots and mats any longer. You'll see tents inside of these facilities that allow us to cohort families and individuals so that they can be more appropriately socially distanced as well as physically distanced from others in these congregate facilities. Also getting as many air purifiers as we can. I want to thank our partners at CARB and others, Bay Area Air Quality Management District, that have been working overtime to get more air purifiers into these shelters. We still have work to do in that space, but progress has been made. But no longer are we just bringing people into congregate facilities. We're also bringing people into non-congregate settings. In fact, the majority of people that have been evacuated are no longer being evacuated into those congregate shelters. They're being evacuated into hotels. We now have 31 hotels, close to 1,500 people that are in those hotel rooms. This is part and parcel of what we built off of through the pandemic. We built new protocols to process these pandemic protocols into our evacuation protocols for these wildfires. In addition, though, of course, to the non-congregate shelters, we do have more traditional shelters in 7 counties, 17 specific shelters, about 731 people in those shelters, but over 2,211 evacuees as of this morning in our shelter system. Many multiples, a multiple of that, many more that have been evacuated, including into trailer parks. I visited one of those trailer parks in the Santa Cruz area yesterday, and others with family, with friends that may be in need of shelters. So we continue to build our capacity, build our protocols in terms of procuring more hotel rooms to provide as many people access in a timely way that we possibly can. Look, speaking of timely, it is, of course, always timely to remind everybody of the challenges we continue to face in terms of the pandemic itself and the case numbers related to COVID-19. I want to provide you an update. You'll see on this screen of some of the new numbers that have come in, a 7-day average that is continuing to trend downwards. 5,798 is the 7-day average of total positive cases. Yesterday, we report in the August 24th number, some 4,946 individuals. Let me highlight what that means with slides those of you check in are very familiar with. Have about a 6.5% positivity rate in the state of California over the last 14 days, 5.6% over the last 7 days. 5.6% positivity over a 7-day period, 6.5% positivity over a 14-day period. We tested a little over 111,000 people yesterday. You'll see that the 7-day average of daily tests is a little over 102,000, close to 103,000, which is slightly down. Not surprisingly, if interested, not surprisingly, the query of why we're experiencing some disruption related to the wildfires throughout the state. In fact, we have 11 of our own state labs, our Verily and OptumServe labs, that have been impacted very directly by the wildfires. But nonetheless, we're still stubbornly getting over 100,000 tests a day, 111,000 that were reported in yesterday. Hospitalizations on the report that came in yesterday showed a 20% decrease over a 14-day period, continuing to trend in a very encouraging direction, down minus 2.1% in this last 24-hour reporting period. Hospitalizations now, COVID positive hospitalized patients, that is, represent in our hospital system 6% of the healthcare capacity. ICUs, we are down 19% over a 14-day period, actually dropped 3.1% in the last 24-hour period. Again, trending not dissimilar to the hospital numbers over a 14-day period, down 19% over 14 days, and total number of ICU positive patients in our system now, you recall, was 23, 22, 20, now represents 17% of the entire ICU capacity within the entire ICU, entire system. You see this slide, it's a familiar slide, number of counties on the monitoring list for 3 days. What is not as familiar is that we are seeing a decline in the total number of counties on the monitoring list, picking up a little bit on the trend we saw last week from 42 counties down to 40 counties. Today, you see there are 35 counties on our monitoring list. The counties that came off the list include Calaveras, Mono, Napa County, Orange County, and Sierra County. Sierra and Calaveras, you may recall, just recently, I think it was on August 13th and August 15th, Calaveras and Sierra came on the list. Now they're off. You can see the dynamic nature, again, of these monitoring lists. I'll go back. You still see on these 35 lists some of the larger counties in the state of California, but encouraged by San Diego, encouraged by Orange County, encouraged that San Francisco has made some progress. We're going to update. Some more updates will be forthcoming on these slides as we present subsequent information to you over the course of the next few days. But again, progress being made across the spectrum on hospitalizations, ICUs, positivity rate, particularly over the 7-day period, and continuing vigilance in this very difficult period where we're battling this pandemic as we're battling these wildfires all up and down the state of California. Just briefly, I want to continue to remind you how deadly this disease is. And while we reported, Monday's reporting is always lower than it actually is because the reporting delays over the weekends, never as accurate as they could be. But 18 deaths, I said this last week, I said it the prior week. Look at the averages, 128 individuals over a 14-day period on average, 128 on average losing their lives to COVID-19. Don't be misled by that 18 number that came out today. And that's why it's absolutely essential for no other reason than to protect you from air quality, but to also protect you and others from the spread of this virus. This pandemic has not gone away. It may be out of the headlines in the state of California because the wildfires have moved into that current occupation of running the daily news feeds. But wearing a mask is foundational in terms of continuing to mitigate the spread of this disease, mitigating the damage to your health as well associated with this smoke. Encourage you to physically distance as always, wash your hands, and of course minimize the extent possible. Forgive the redundancy, the mixing we're seeing around the state. Let me just conclude by making one final point, and that is I am really proud and honored just to see firsthand the incredible work that's being done by volunteers all across the state of California, by all of those selfless individuals from the American Red Cross and elsewhere that come from all over the country with their heart on their sleeve, there to take care of evacuees, take care of strangers. I want to thank the deputy sheriffs that I have spent time with that are doing extraordinary work in communities all across the state of California, particularly Northern California with the evacuations. I want to just up front condemn in no uncertain words how disgraceful it is, how disgusting it is to learn about people that in some instances have been taking advantage of these evacuees by going in their homes, breaking in their homes, looting their properties. That's repugnant. And I'm going to just want to thank the deputy sheriffs and local law enforcement for their outstanding job to hold these individuals to account. And they'll be held to a higher account. The morality and ethics, besides the legality of that, is self-evident. But I just want to thank again local law enforcement for all of their good work during these trying times. I want to thank all the shelter operators, including all the faith-based operators out there representing every conceivable spectrum within our faith-based community, opening up their facilities, in many cases their homes, to strangers. I also want to thank Eloy Oakley and others, the community colleges that have been made available, the dormitories that are being made available throughout the state, the CSU system and the UC system. Again, just the heroic effort across the spectrum of people really doing incredible work at this very, very difficult and challenging time, including, by the way, taking care of a lot of pets. And any of you love pets and horses, and met a gentleman yesterday down at the county fairground in Santa Cruz that was taking care of a pig and 2 dogs, and was very pleased by how well Christian, thank you Christian for your great leadership on that shelter operation, how well you're taking care of the animals, not just taking care of people. So a lot of pieces of this puzzle. But a lot of good progress has been made on some of these stubborn, larger fires. We're making a little bit of progress on these big lightning complex fires. This is an important week. The weather, again, continues to be a little unfavorable, primarily around the Sierras and the eastern part, with some potential lightning through this evening. But by and large, the weather system over the course of the next week, it's a little cooler. A lot cooler by contrast to where we were 10 days ago, a little bit cooler where we were a week ago, still hot in the state. But the winds can change on a moment's notice. But the winds will be very determinative in terms of our ability to suppress these fires, mitigate the spread of these fires. And that's why I say this week is going to be a profoundly important week in terms of our efforts. And we are going to put everything that we have to do what we can, because this weekend we've got some wind conditions that may be shifting, may be changing, that can make things a little bit more challenging, certainly make things a little bit more complex. So that's the presentation today. I wanted to be succinct and focused. We've got our teams here at the State Operations Center all throughout Northern California, including head of CAL FIRE, OES, and the General of National Guard, Baldwin, all just left the SOC after a briefing and heading down to the CZU complex. And we continue, again, to be monitoring activity all throughout the state. There are many other fires I didn't highlight, from Butte Fire. Progress has been made on the Jones Fire, other fires. But I just want to thank every single member of not only law enforcement, but these incredible firefighters that are out there on the front lines, those hand crews from the Conservation Corps, including from CDCR, that are out there, which we saw near Pleasanton on Saturday, doing an incredible job.
You've been watching an update from Governor Gavin Newsom. Our coverage continues right now on CBSN Bay Area, streaming on KPIX.com. The governor says the state is deploying every resource at their disposal to battle these historic wildfires, an emphasis on historic because listen to these numbers. Last year at this time, there were 4,200 wildfires in the state, burning about 56,000 acres. As of today, we're at 7,000 wildfires, burning 1.4 million acres. So this is affecting a lot of people, and KPIX5 is proud to be partnering with the Red Cross right now in a virtual telethon for fire relief all day today. Since 4:30 this morning, we've raised approximately $16,286. To donate, just call the number on your screen, 1-855-848-GIVE, or you can head to our website, kpix.com.